Why do women not get painkillers for IUD insertion? When my daughter got one, they told her to just take a couple of Tylenol or ibuprofen an hour before the procedure. She said she was in so much pain she screamed out loud. And that was just during the procedure. That didn't count the cramping and pain she had for about 3 months afterward. I got painkillers for it. Didn't help one bit. This is such a good question. When I got mine put in, I literally yelled, "Holy FCK," in the middle of the doctor's office because not only was it unbelievably painful, but I was also not adequately prepared for just how painful it would be. The NP didn't say anything about pain other than to tell me ahead of time to take some ibuprofen before I got it inserted. And that should be fine. It was not fine. While I'm glad I have an IUD and therefore likely won't have an unplanned pregnancy, I definitely wouldn't have gotten it if I had known how bad it would be. Absolutely not. Because very old and inaccurate studies show that the cervix doesn't have many nerve endings, or at least enough to get pain management. Good fucking question. I have had 2 inserts. One with a cervix biopsy. I was in so much pain I vomited in the waiting room just after giving me Motrin for pain. Motrin. Motrin. I laid in a fetal position for an hour in an exam room, just crying. The lovely doc asked me if I wanted to take it out and I said hell no. The second time I got it done, he said if it's too much pain I should get the implant. So he offered me another type of birth control instead of medicated me properly for a birth control. That works well for me. This is Canada. I have 4 years to go shopping for another gyno that will medicate me. Edit. Typo. I put up with almost 30 minutes of a doctor trying to insert it. I found out later that I have a tilted uterus. I had 2 children, one was 9 pounds, the other 8 pounds, with no drugs, and the pain of the IUD was so much worse, like someone was cutting my insides. I was not offered something. The procedure is only supposed to take a few min. Maybe that's why. But I was also not offered anything when I had a cancer removed from my cheek that was worse, not that it hurt, but 45 minutes of someone cutting and sewing and cauterizing your face is a lot mentally. I ran out to my car and just broke down. I have had gallstones, 2 traumatic births, including postpartum hemorrhage and D&C, several surgeries, and I once laid my hand on a hot stove element. And I still count my IUD insertion and removal among my memorable pain experiences. No painkillers offered. No sedation. Just a quick, "By the way, this is going to hurt. But I'll be quick, hun." I just want to mention that one of the ways to reduce pain is to give the woman misoprostol, which softens the cervix and makes it easier to insert the IUD and less painful. However, with the new anti-abortion laws, misoprostol is simply not given to women anymore. So at least part of it is misogyny. It's messed up that they don't. Nothing like memories of 2 nurses helping to hold me still while they yelled, "It's okay to scream. Honey, wiggle your toes. Scream it out." I've had a hip dislocate and the IUD was far worse in my opinion. I don't have any medical conditions. I was a healthy 22-year-old and it sucked. I'd do it all over again since I don't have to fear a pharmacist choosing not to refill my prescriptions for religious reasons or worry about the side effects of hormonal birth control. Doctors would rather medicate with hormones and don't tend to recommend IUDs in my experience, even if you have severe side effects, so they don't have to acknowledge the need for IUD procedures to be changed. My thoughts on this are based off of personal experience, not any medical knowledge, so take it with a grain of salt. I tried to get an IUD twice. Once with a male doctor and the second time with a female doctor that was in charge of training for this procedure. Both of these doctors were from my university, and she commuted 2 hours for me specifically from another campus. I was prescribed an anxiety med and 600 milligrams ibuprofen. Unfortunately, I forgot the anxiety med both times, and the ibuprofen was a joke. Both doctors were very empathetic, kind, great at communicating. Best patient care I've ever had in my life. But the female doctor did tell me that it's different for everyone. Some of her patients don't even notice it happening, and it's one of the easiest things ever. Others are not so lucky, like myself. Worst pain I've ever experienced. I almost passed out, and my body wouldn't even accept it. I ended up getting the implant instead. Moral of the story, I guess, is that they can't know how each person will handle it until they're in the middle of the procedure. They can't prescribe stronger medication if they don't have reason to believe it's medically necessary. My friend got her IUD no pain no problem, and she was more of an anxious mess than I was going in. It just depends. I have known women that did get painkillers, but it was literally one pill, and she had endometriosis and several other issues. That seems like something that is sadly rare. Unfortunately, the issue is that even though 85% of OBGYNs are female, almost all medical research is done on men who don't have cervixes and don't get IUDs. So I guess most doctors just aren't aware of the problem. Furthermore, in this age of malpractice lawsuits and ridiculous insurance policies, especially in the US, it may simply be an insurance issue. Laying the IUD was so traumatic and painful. Only time I ever fainted from pain. That I did not go a GYN for 8 years for a fear that they might need to take it out. I just managed to bring myself to making an appointment 2 months ago. I was crying like a baby when I brought up the courage to tell them I had an IUD that probably needed removing. They told me that they will have a look and tuck a little to see if it comes out easily. It didn't. They assured me that they would stop if I asked them to. They didn't. My wife is having the same issue with getting hers removed. She had to fight, and all they gave her was anti-anxiety meds. No painkillers. The pain was so bad after it was placed. I had to pull off to the side of the highway crying in the fetal position in the driver's seat, covered in blood because my nose exploded, and sat there until I could barely move again to get home. There I was out for maybe 3 days with pain that I could barely breathe through. They said to take some Tylenol and I could be good to drive home and perfect by end day. They were wrong. Doctors think women are weak and over-exaggerate their pain. I told my doctor I was passing out, throwing up in the bathroom at school, and screaming in pain due to my period, and she told me that's normal and I just have to get used to it. Because most doctors are dicks. My former GYN laughed at me when I screamed in pain during insertion of my first IUD. She said if I could handle having 2 kids, there was no way it hurt that much. If she bothered to read my file, she would have known I had scheduled C-sections and had never had my cervix dilated. She was ripping me apart. My new doctor gave me a pill to dilate my cervix and some Xanax for my removal, reinsertion. Didn't even feel it. Like magic. It's amazing what a difference medication makes. My daughter just had her old one removed, a new one inserted this week. Doc gave her lots of pain med and even an Ativan for the actual removal, insertion process. My doctor gave me a pill to open the cervix. Scheduled the APPT during my cycle when my cervix was softest, and recommended taking an OTC pain med. All that helped, and the insertion wasn't bad. I just got mine on Friday and I was all kinds of drugged up. My doctor was amazing. I got Percocet and lorazepam as well as something to help with nausea to take an hour beforehand. The night before I got the meds to open the cervix. During the procedure he warned me there'd be 2 pinches and then it would hurt. But I was so drugged up at this point I didn't know what was happening. LMAO. I remember when they went in and I said, ow, and it really hurt even on all those drugs, but it wasn't the worst experience ever. I haven't stopped bleeding since then, and occasionally the cramping is annoying, but I was wondering why everyone doesn't just get one before they're ready to have kids. It's so effective and you don't have to remember to take a pill. My periods will lighten up and it all seems very nice. I had no idea it was that bad for most people. I had absolutely no idea that it hurt. When my GYN was going over options with me, they mentioned it right along with the others. She went over the side effects and application of each kind. She never mentioned any kind of pain. Years later, a different GYN went over options with me again. Nothing about it hurting. It was being considered to switch to an IUD, but thankfully I didn't. I would have been absolutely blindsided. These same 2 doctors never told me what pain control options there were for labor either. Aside from an epidural. 7 years apart. The attitude hasn't changed. Now I know. But there are no more babies for me. It needs to change.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.